Shalom. All praise to Shaddai, all praise to Yah. We're going to be talking about Shalom and the deep meaning of Shalom and the pictographic meaning of Shalom. And as most people know, Shalom translates to peace. All right, like saying, what's your peace? What's up? Ma shlomach? Ma shlomech? Of course, we have some people who would like to say, or pronounce it a different way. Some people would like to say Shalom, and now, in recent times, you have some people who like to say Shalom, okay? Regardless of how you pronounce it orally, all right, it should be spelled the same way, all right, which is the Shin, the Lamet, the Wav, and the Mem. And all these carry a real deep meaning to them, which is part of our doctrine, all right, which is something that we should all share in common. I mean, if you are of the Shemitic beliefs or the Abrahamic doctrine. So when we look at the meanings of these letters in the order that they're in, you have the Shin, which represents the consumer or the destroyer. And of course, hidden, the most people don't know, this Shin represents the Father. Then of course you have the Lamed, which represents the shepherd, who is also the teacher and the leader. And then you have the Wav, which represents a nail. And it also is used to represent something being bound or binding of something, okay? And then of course you have the Mem. And many people will say, oh, the Mem represents the water and it represents the chaos, because the chaos was in the water of the flood. But the Mem doesn't, I don't really know so much about the chaos as far as when that became one of the interpretations of the Mem. But when we look at more of the ancient interpretations, or the descriptions given of the pictographic form of the Mem, we see that the Mem represents the water and that the Mem also represents the blood, which is what we can see in the name of Adam or Adam, which is the Aleph, the Dalet, and the Mem. And so of course that Aleph, we know that its picture is of the bull's head and it represents the power. But of course the Aleph also represents life, the life. So there is more definitions or more descriptions given to these the pictures, the pictographic meanings of these letters. And I think a lot of people miss out. Like a lot of people just go to, no, the Aleph just represents power. That's it. No, but the Aleph also represents life. They'll go to the Shin. The Shin just represents the consumer, the destroyer, but the Shin also represents the Father. It's very important. All right. So now we're going to look at that and what the word Shalom, and of course the letter Mem. All right. I'm sorry because I kind of got off subject. But as I was saying about Adam, if we look at Adam, right, the Aleph, the Dalet, and the Mem, it means that some people say it means power, right? The Aleph, Dalet, within, Mem, right? The water. Of course, the Mem doesn't just mean the water. The Mem also means the blood. So some people will say, well, Adam means power within the blood. Okay. Yeah. But the Aleph also means life, not just power. Therefore, life, Adam, means life within the blood. His life is within the life force, is within us, is within the blood. Okay, so those are just some of the meanings. When we look at the word Shalom, all right, and we want to know, why does it mean peace? Okay. Well, when we look at the letter, some people will say, well, you have the Shin, which is to destroy, the Lamed, which is the shepherd or the leader, the Wav, which is the pin, means to pin him or to bind him, and the Mem, which means the chaos. So they believe it means to destroy the leader bound to chaos. And by destroying the leader who is bound to chaos, this will bring us peace. Okay, I mean, that's a more, I guess, common definition, or, transliteration or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Interpretation of the pictographic form. But let's go over to what it really means now, the real secret behind Shalom. Because the Shin is not just the destroyer, the Shin is also the father. And yes, the Lamed is the shepherd and the teacher. And yes, the Wab is the nail and the pin that is bound. But the Mem does not represent the chaos in the word Shalom. The Mem represents the blood or the water, right? As it mostly has done before it passed, right? All right, so let's look at the word Shalom. And let's say it in the interpretation as most likely it's supposed to be said in the first place, all right? The Father and his teacher are bound by blood. Now, this is the interpretation that a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like that because Shalom points to the Messiah, okay? If you believe in the Messiah, which is the reason we say Shalom, but we believe that it is the Messiah who brings Shalom, okay? And you can't have Shalom without the Messiah. And so, therefore, if you say Shalom, you believe that the Messiah, all right, shares the blood of the Father. And you believe that it is the Messiah who teaches the true doctrine, which is something we're going to cover in another video about the doctrine that was held by Melchizedek and the genealogy of, or the secret in the names in the genealogy of Adam to Noah, which some of you already know. But in this doctrine, we believe that it is the teacher who comes down to teach us, or who came down to teach us in the flesh, was also El and carried the blood of the Elohim. And if you do not believe that the Messiah is Elohim because he is the one with the Father, all right, then don't say Shalom. Don't say Shalom. Because that is only for people who believe in the true and ancient prophecies. And this is the doctrine that was believed before. This is older than Judaism. Just like the name of Yesh is older than the name of Yah. I know a lot of you hate that. I know a lot of you get mad about it. I'm sorry. This is history, man. The book of Job predates, all right, all the rest of the Jewish text. And as you can read in the book of Job, they were describing text. Elihu and them were describing text that we do not have, where they believed in an angel named Yesh, sent by Shaddai, who would forgive sin and pay the price, give his life, and pay a ransom for those who are in the body. This is also in the belief of Shalom. In the belief of Shalom, not only do they share the blood, but it is through the blood that is given that we may obtain eternal life. The Mem doesn't just represent the blood, but the Mem represents the waters, or the living waters. And the living waters are the blood of the Elohim. We believe that only the teaching could come from the one who shares the blood of the Father. And that by shedding his own blood, he has shed the blood also of the Father. and that by his shedding, the shedding of his blood, he has shed the blood of the Elohim. I know that many of you may not understand it now. As you get deeper into the pictographic meanings, the actual meanings of the words and the ancient meanings of the words will start to make a little bit more sense to you. What doctrine you're actually supposed to be believing in. Okay? Kind of like the Holy Trinity. If you have rejected the name of Shaddai, then you have rejected the Holy Trinity. This is something we're also going to talk about next time.